Welcome to The Explainer. You know, when we think of crime solving, we might picture fingerprints or DNA. But these days, some of the most crucial clues, they're not under a microscope. They're inside a hard drive. Today, we are digging in, literally, to the fascinating world of digital forensics.
And you know, this quote from an archaeologist back in 1966, it just nails it. He talks about searching for clues in fragmentary and often confusing information to reconstruct what happened. That's exactly what a modern digital investigator does. They're really today's digital archaeologists, sifting through the layers of our digital lives to piece together the story of a crime.
I mean, just look at this desk. Laptops, phones, external drives, these are the treasure chests of evidence now. But here's the catch. Unlike a crime scene with fingerprints you can dust for, a digital scene is, well, it's invisible, and it's incredibly fragile. One wrong click, and poof, it could be gone or contaminated.
So, that's our first big hurdle, the invisible crime scene. How in the world do you approach a scene that isn't really a place at all, but just bits and bytes on a device? Well, the first thing you have to do is figure out what's junk and what's treasure. Think about it. A single computer can have millions of files. The vast majority of those are just boring system files, the digital equivalent of dirt and rock. An investigator's real job is to pan for gold, to find those meaningful digital artifacts and separate them from all that noise.
Okay, so once they've identified a device that might have evidence, the clock starts ticking. This next phase is absolutely critical, securing the digital evidence. And I'm not kidding, the decisions made in the first few minutes can literally make or break the whole case. And that leads to this huge question. You've got a computer that's running at the scene. Do you pull the plug or not? It sounds so simple, right? But the answer has massive consequences. So what do you do? Okay, so let's break this down. If you pull the plug, you freeze the hard drive in time, which is great. But you lose everything that's in the computer's live memory, its RAM. We're talking active internet connections, open chat windows, unsaved files. Poof, gone. But if you leave it on to capture that live data, you risk changing things on the hard drive. It's a massive gamble. The right call really depends on the crime. A live hack in progress? You need that RAM data. For other stuff, maybe preserving the drive is more important. It is a high-stakes trade-off every single time. And yeah, getting this wrong has huge real-world consequences. Just look at the Steve Jackson Games raid back in 1990. Federal agents went in, seized a bunch of computers, and the Secret Service actually started reading and deleting private emails. The company sued them and won for violating privacy laws. It was a massive wake-up call about why proper procedure isn't just a suggestion, it's the law.
So to prevent disasters like that, and to make sure the evidence is actually usable in court, every single move has to be documented. This is what's known as the chain of custody. You can think of it like an unbreakable paper trail. It proves exactly who touched the evidence, when they touched it, and why, guaranteeing it hasn't been messed with.
Right, and here's a super important point. Investigators almost never work on the original device. That's a huge no-no. Instead, they create what's called a bitstream copy. Now, this is not your average copy and paste. We're talking a perfect, identical twin, a bit-for-bit replica of the entire drive, including stuff the user can't even see, like deleted files and hidden data. And this diagram really shows you why that's so important. A regular file copy, it just grabs the file you can see. But a bitstream copy, it gets everything. It gets the file, yeah, but it also grabs all that empty space around it, which is where the real gold can be hidden. We're talking deleted files, fragments of photos, you name it. The bitstream copy gets the whole shebang.
So now we have a secure, perfect copy of the evidence. The original is safely tucked away, and the real archaeological dig can finally start. This is our next phase, finding the hidden clues. And yeah, it's all about sifting through potentially millions of files to find the handful that actually tell a story.
So how do they find that needle in a digital haystack? Well, they use some pretty clever tricks. For one, they can just filter out all the noise, automatically ignoring every known standard system file to focus only on what the user created or downloaded. And get this, they don't look at file names because those are easy to fake. Instead, they look at a file's signature, its internal DNA. So if a suspect tries to hide a picture by renaming it homework.txt, the software will still know, hey, that's a JPEG. And as they're sifting, they're looking for two types of clues. First, there are class characteristics. This is stuff that tells you what kind of thing it is, like, oh, this file was definitely made with Photoshop. But the real holy grail is individual characteristics.
These are the clues that can link a file to a specific source, like a serial number from a computer's network card that got embedded in a document. That's a digital fingerprint.
And this is where it gets really cool. Just like an archaeologist can piece together a shattered pot, a digital forensics expert can often recover deleted files, even if they've been partially overwritten. This image is the perfect way to picture it, taking all those broken digital shards and painstakingly reassembling them until you can see the original picture. Okay, so you've found all the pieces. The last step, and maybe the most important one, is putting that puzzle together. You have to take all these fragmented clues, the recovered files, the timestamps, the browser history, and weave them into a story that a judge and jury can actually understand. A story of what happened.
And one of the most powerful tools for building that story is something called temporal analysis. It's basically just a fancy way of saying, put everything on a timeline. By looking at the exact timestamps, when was a file created, when was it modified, when was it last opened, a crystal clear narrative of events starts to take shape. And often, it's a pretty damning one.
And this timeline, this is from a real case, and it's absolutely chilling. You can see the victim's digital trail day by day. First, they've used some websites, then they start emailing with a stranger. The next day, they're chatting online with that same person. And on the final day, they search for driving directions to that person's location, and then, after 8 p.m., all digital activity just stops. Forever.
Sometimes, just visualizing the data can reveal incredible patterns. This chart looks complicated, but it's just showing when files were being used on a suspect's computer. And you see those big gaps? Those perfectly matched up with the suspect's work shifts. That kind of pattern of life evidence can be incredibly powerful in an investigation.
This kind of timeline reconstruction was exactly what helped convict the serial killer Dr. Harold Shipman. He was a doctor who was killing his patients. And how did they catch him? A database audit log. A simple digital timeline showed that he was going back and changing his patients' medical records after they were already dead. It was the digital smoking gun that proved his guilt and his attempt to cover it all up.
So, when you pull it all together, what's the big takeaway? It's that digital forensics, it's not magic. It's not like what you see on TV. It's a slow, methodical science. It's about careful preservation, deep analysis, and ultimately, storytelling. It's about taking a silent flood of ones and zeros and turning it into a story that can speak the truth.
But you know, this whole field is a constant cat and mouse game. As fast as forensic tools get better, new technologies come out that are designed to hide data and cover tracks, which leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. In a world of increasing encryption and data that just disappears, how will the digital archaeologist of the future be able to find the truth?